Hey everybody, my name is Chad Booksan with Alternative Media Television. The truth about what's happening in the Middle East and the Saudi Arabian purge. Now, first of all, the mainstream media is not reporting this correctly because this is a biblical war that is breaking out in the Middle East. Biblical war between Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Iran. Now, documents and cables have just been exposed that Israel has been supporting Saudi Arabia and coordinating with Saudi Arabia in order to push for a war against Iran. There's these documents and memos that were released by Israel, and it was even reported by an Israeli press organization saying how they sent out a memo to all their ambassadors telling them to support Saudi Arabia's efforts in Yemen against the Houthi rebels that are backed by Iran, telling them to support the purge happening in Saudi Arabia and what's happening in Lebanon. Now, as we reported earlier, the Prime Minister of Lebanon went to Saudi Arabia, and then when he came back, Prime Minister Hariri resigned, and he blamed it on Iranian influence. Now, Israel are doing the biggest military exercises ever seen. The Air Force in Israel are doing the biggest military exercises ever seen by Israel. A biblical war. Saudi Arabia and Israel are working together to destroy Iran. Now, let's discuss this a little bit now. Let's discuss the purge, the Saudi Arabian purge.
Saudi Arabia has sworn in several new government ministers to replace just a few of the more than a dozen who have been arrested over the weekend.
Saudi Arabia's most high-profile princes and businessmen swept up in an anti-corruption probe. At least 38 former, current, and deputy ministers now under arrest, accused of corruption.
And let's talk specifically about this consolidation of power, because the question seems to be, what does the Crown Prince do with that power now?
Now, first of all, why do they do this purge? One of two things. And as we pinpointed here, the ballistic missile that was shot from Yemen, Saudi Arabia was going to blame it on Iran. Now, the Houthi rebels who are backed by Iran did claim responsibility, but the Saudi Arabian purge happened right after this ballistic missile launch. So one or two things happened. Either Saudi Arabia this ballistic missile attack to begin their purge, or they took a little chapter out of the New World Order playbook, implemented some radical Islamic groups in Yemen in order to launch this ballistic missile attack. A false flag was committed to begin their Saudi Arabian purge. Either way, Saudi Arabia and Israel, part of the New World Order, the U.S. military, has always pinpointed as Iran as one of the final targets in the Middle East, and that's what you see happening.
This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran.
Now, why is Saudi Arabia putting all these princes, all these officials and ministers in custody? They're going to squeeze them. They're going to force them to sell their assets and all their equities in order to gain in order to have a financial gain to fund this war, in order for them to westernize their economy, as Christopher Green has reported. Now, Donald Trump, he was there not too long ago in Saudi Arabia. You've seen the king and Donald Trump. They had their hands on the New World Order globe. Beyond that globe, what did they do? The U.S. military had an arms deal with Saudi Arabia. Almost $1 billion arms deal because they're preparing for this moment. That's why Donald Trump is so tight with Saudi Arabia and Israel, because they're going to work together. And Donald Trump already approved of the purge that's happening in Saudi Arabia. They're going to work together to shut down and destroy Iran 100%. 100%. So the Saudi Arabian purge, they're getting rid of any ministers or princes who might have any financial dealings with Iran. They're using this corruption charge in order to squeeze them, force them to sell off their assets to help them fund this war and to westernize the economy. So a big coup has been committed, and any opposition to King Salman or the Crown Prince, okay, is going to get that same kind of treatment. They're going to put in custody, they're going to get arrested, or they might get killed, just like one of those princes who died in a helicopter crash that was supposedly accidental. But we all know the truth. Now, this is one of the biggest deals ever. Look, first of all, why are Israel and Saudi Arabia working together? And where does this begin? It is beginning in Syria, because at the end of the day, Syria was a big proxy war, we all remember. Russia, Iran backing up the Bashar al-Assad regime, and Hezbollah fighting against the U.S. military and other radical Islamic Sunni groups in Syria being supported and funded by Saudi Arabia as well, and Israel. You had a big proxy war happening in Syria, and that war is dying down. So the fight for influence in the region between the Sunni and the Shia, or between Saudi Arabia and Iran, is at a very high extent right now. Israel wants to destroy Iran. Israel wants to destroy Hezbollah, that's located in Lebanon. They've already fought multiple wars. Israel is working in coordination with Saudi Arabia and the U.S. military to wage war against Iran. This is a biblical war that is going to explode. This biblical war is not being reported correctly. And the fact that Saudi Arabia is already blocking off Qatar, what do they do with Qatar? They say Qatar is supporting Iran. That's why there's a blockade of Qatar by Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been fighting against Yemen for a long time, for almost a couple years, because of the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. Israel and the U.S. military are supporting Saudi Arabia's efforts. That's why the arms deal has occurred. And again, that's why you saw Donald Trump and the king of Saudi Arabia holding that New World Order globe. You see Benjamin Netanyahu working closely with Saudi Arabia as well. And World War III is going to be fought on multiple fronts. And as I reported previously, Israel is going to be one of the primary leaders of World War III in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia is backing them as well. Now, what do you see happening in Asia? Donald Trump's in Asia right now, and he's kind of talking nice about North Korea right now, because Donald Trump, tomorrow, he's going to go visit China. So he wants to have his negotiation tactics on the table. So he basically stated that he wants more diplomacy with North Korea. But we know what that means. That's just a card that he's playing, because tomorrow he's going to go and see the leader of China, and they're going to try to negotiate or get China. Trump's going to try to get China to pressure North Korea to stop what they're doing. But North Korea, I guarantee you, is either not going to listen, or the U.S. military is going to ensure that a false flag is committed. Because Donald Trump, now he's talking nice, because if North Korea does something like launch a ballistic missile, test a nuclear weapon, while Donald Trump is talking nice and showing China that he's willing to negotiate, that's either a false flag or a reason for Donald Trump to attack. Donald Trump has been attaching Iran and North Korea together. Donald Trump has stated that Iran is helping fund and helping North Korea with their ballistic missile program. So World War III is being fought on multiple fronts. Saudi Arabia and Israel. They were created around the same time during World War II and after. They are a part of the New World Order. Iran has been one of the final targets. We've seen General Wesley Clark, what he stated. Christopher Green has been reporting on this for a long time. We are in the midst of a biblical war. Everything is on the table, and look how fast these chess pieces are moving. And World War III can happen overnight. This isn't fear propaganda. This is facts. The mainstream media will lie to you until Americans are dead. And remember that. Tune in here to AMTV for more updates. Again, my name is Chad. Hard hitting in your face. I'll see you soon.
Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're watching AMTV Alternative Media Television. I just got in this new t-shirt, I Only Kneel for Jesus. Again, a great time to show your support, especially in light of everything that's going on in the world today and people disrespecting our troops, those that fight and die for our very freedom. And I've had a lot of requests to keep this in stock. I've only got about a dozen or so left, and they'll be yanking it from stock. We've already batched 3 orders. I Only Kneel for Jesus, and the AMTV logo on the back. Again, great way to support us. Don't just buy one, buy 2, give them out to friends and family, and glorify God. Thank you very much. God bless.